Hey guys, what's going on? Tyraku here, and I hope everyone is having a great day. Now, a few days ago, I did a video on the Scarab King, and I want to jump in here and show you guys a little bit, or share a little bit of my thought process when it comes to building a team for him. Surprisingly, the number one thing I saw after making that video, and the number one thing that I've seen people have issues with, isn't even the Scarab King. I made a video about Metal Shaper, keeping your shields up against the Scarab King, doing turn meter reduction, and the whole 9 yards. But come to find out, the issue was actually in the waves and not being able to actually kill the waves, which I went back through and I put in like a very early game friendly team, I guess, players who like obviously don't have a full team in 60s. I tried to do it and I kept running into one issue. I even took my armor gears up. I could get through the waves, but it was tricky. So I want to show you guys two things. First off, I want to demonstrate one disaster you can make and something that I realized pretty quickly. So this first wave right here, we have 3 Warchiefs, okay? Now, Warchiefs are a legendary who gets memed on a lot. It's not a very good legendary whenever you're using them. But whenever the AI, the computer, the enemy's using him, he's an absolute monster. And I'm about to show you why. Watch my Skull Crown, okay? Look at her HP. This should be 100%. She's gonna do a lot of damage. Get ready for this. Boom. She basically nuked herself down. If she didn't have that unkillable, she would have been dead. So I think this is the issue a lot of people are running into. Now, that's a good and bad thing though. If you have a Skull Crown, it's not big of a deal. You can just bring her in. If you had a Sinesha to go alongside her, which I did, you bring Sinesha alongside her, Skull Crown ends up dying, no problem. She just gets automatically rezzed by Sinesha. If you don't have Skull Crown and you want to bring an AoE wave nuke champion, if you apply decreased defense to the enemy, and then you nuke them, you're basically guaranteed to die. Like, those Warchiefs, I'm pretty sure reflect 60% of the damage dealt to them. Disaster. Very hard-hitting ability. Now, there's a few things you can do to work around this, okay? So I tested out several things. I tested out increased defense. It doesn't do anything. I didn't do anything that I could tell. My Skull Crown still nuked herself down, and I'm pretty sure I saw ignore defense, so that doesn't work. I tried ally protect. That doesn't work either. It just ignores, like, the ally using the ally protect doesn't take any damage, but the champion you're nuking with takes all the damage, so that's a very bad idea as well. One thing I did find out that does work, or 2 things actually, is unkillable. So if you have like a man-eater, if you have a Paragon, you could Paragon cast unkillable to your champion who's about to nuke, and they'll have unkillable on them. You could use Skull Crown or any champion who has unkillable. You could do a swift parry set and hope that it activates on this wave and actually gets the unkillable to proc when you're about to die. You can also do block damage, which champions like Fellhound, Steadfast Marshal, 2 champions in specific who can Steadfast Marshal casts it on the entire team. Fellhound casts it on a specific champion. So what I did is I would apply decreased defense to everybody, whether it's with War Maiden, with Stag Knight, or whoever. And then I would have my Fellhound cast block damage onto Skull Crown. Skull Crown just nuke everybody down, and then the wave was clear. Skull Crown took no damage. So that was a perfect little synergy there. If, for some reason, you're not able to get these guys down very quick, these Warchiefs are not that much of a problem in and of themselves, okay? Like, they're not going to hit very hard. The people who are going to hit hard, and I'll give you an example, is these Harvest Jacks. They're not necessarily, well, I take that back. They're not even going to hit hard, per se. The issue with the Harvest Jack is that they cast Fear. So they'll use their ability 3, I believe it is, which uses a Fear. So I'm going to go ahead and kill these guys, the Harvest Jack. I'm going to show you how much the Warchiefs hit for. It's not a very significant amount, even without decreased attack. I don't believe, if I recall correctly, like, okay, so a 12k, which was taken off the shield. So let's see if they hit less. Hopefully they hit Allure again. And Allure is level 50. So this would be a pretty good idea of how hard they actually hit, and if they're really a threat to worry about. And I'm not even gonna have a decreased attack on them. Obviously, Stag Knight, I do have him, and he be casting decreased attack all the time. I mean, so look, my level 30, didn't even get one-shotted by a level 150, all right? So the Warchiefs in and of themselves are not that much of a threat. So if for some reason you're not able to bring in a block damage, an unkillable buff, or anything like that, don't worry about the Warchiefs. The 2 biggest problems for you are gonna be the Harvest Jacks. So if you could bring in some like turn meter reduction, if you could throw somebody in a stun set, stun the Warchiefs, get them controlled, then just go hard against the Harvest Jacks. If for some reason you couldn't even do that, then just stun and CC the Harvest Jacks and try to kill the Warchiefs. The only issue with the Warchiefs are they're going to reflect damage. I really like the idea of just focusing down the 2 Harvest Jacks and then moving on to the Warchiefs. Because like I said, that reflect damage is brutal, but if you're separating that damage across multiple champions, it's not nearly as bad. Now, another little tidbit to add on to that is if you are bringing a shield set champion, like a champion wearing a shield set, in my case, it's Stagnite. Stagnite absorbs quite a bit of this damage, or helps Gala absorb quite a bit of this damage. Gala also places a shield on herself based on some damage, I believe, equal to any surplus heal. So she does place another shield, but if you can stack shield sets on top of each other, perfect. Or stack a shield buff on top of a shield set, perfect. So that'll give you a little bit more of a cushion when you hit these Warchiefs. Like, watch this. You'll see Gala's health start to drop, I think, right here maybe, but then she'll cast another shield on herself. So it drops, not a huge deal. You just gotta manage it. But if you have the damage separated across a few people, it's gonna be a much better situation for you. Now, let me go into the next wave and show you what the kind of the plan is for here. So here, we got a few issues. Solaces, they both move slow. Same thing with the Warchief, though. He's not necessarily moving slow, but he's not really a threat. The Solaces are a threat, and the Harvest Jacks are a big threat. Personally, I think the Harvest Jacks are the biggest threat because they cast an AoE fear on your whole team. Now, let's go ahead and do this shield buff here, and then we're going to do the same thing. We're not going to apply decrease attack, decrease defense, nothing like that. Obviously, if this was a serious run, I would do all of that. I would cast decrease attack, decrease defense, so nobody's really going to hit very hard. But I want to show you guys without doing that. And I could even not even use Heartseeker, so no turn meter reduction on the Harvest Jacks. Let's go ahead and get this dude killed. Now, obviously, my Gala is one-shotting on basically. You may not do that, but it's not a huge deal. You can just go through a few more turns. I just want to really show you how much of a threat or not the Solaces are. They are a threat, and they are obnoxious because they do have a provoke ability, I believe, and a stun they place. So this provokes the entire team. Obviously, you don't want that to happen, but you still are able to take turns. Now, that is pretty bad, of course, right? But if you're attacking the Solaces, it's not the end of the world. You do need some champions to keep them alive, to keep your champions alive. Ideally, if you had a champion have block debuffs, that's great. Maybe a Spirit Host. For me, it'd be like a Siphi or a Duchess. You could place that up as soon as they're about to take their turn. If not, I still strongly think that the Harvest Jacks should be the #1 target, just because of how slow the Solaces I feel like they are. I feel like they're very slow. My Stagnite does have a slow on this one, so that helps out a lot, obviously. Now, this run is going to be ruined because my Metal Shaper, the key champion here, is dead, but not a huge deal. The main thing I was wanting to show you guys is how to get through the waves. Now, I'm going to go through this. I'm going to fast forward to that wave again and see how we can play that through maybe differently. So I'll be back as soon as I get to that wave. Alright guys, so we're back on this wave now, and like I was saying, I want to focus down the Harvest Jacks. If you have a decreased attack, if you have a decreased defense, that's amazing. I definitely think if you apply a decreased attack, or decreased defense actually, because these champions I believe are defense-based champions, that's going to help you out a lot. Now with the Harvest Jacks, I just now realized they actually place fear and a decreased speed, so that's really going to mess your team up. Now the previous round, I tested killing the Jacks first, but let me see if it's much different if I kill these Solaces instead first, just to give you an idea. So they're going to be a little bit more tanky as compared to the Harvest Jacks for sure. Harvest Jacks are going to die a little bit easier, I believe. Now the Jack, he goes, and then he places a fear and decreased speed, which those decreased speed is not a very good debuff to have. You don't want to have that on yourself at all, because then you're going to be going a lot slower, obviously. I almost like Provoke more than this ability, especially if you've already killed the 2 Jacks, because Provoke from the Solaces, you're just using your A1 against them, alright? That's not a huge deal. You're still getting them some damage, whereas the fear, you could use the true fear at that. You could use an ability and it not actually activate, and then it's on cooldown. So that's a disaster waiting to happen. See, like that, which that was an A1, so that's not a big deal, of course. But let me see how this Jack does right here. If it's pretty bad for us, and we'll see how hard they hit also. So Provoke there also. Well, Allure is going to make them go a little bit slower. And he has a slow on him as well. Obviously, if you can bring a champion who applies slow, perfect. Do that for sure. We have another fear going out, and they do, I feel like, a lot more damage than the Solaces did, right? The Solaces, I wasn't too worried about them. But like here, let's see if this actually hits. Okay, so nothing. It didn't register. It registered. I think it's like an 80% chance to activate or something, right? I believe that's what it is. And then that wasn't great for this dude, just because I used that ability first. You want to make sure if you're using Metal Shaper to wait to use that. I do have Stagnite in a shield set though, So it all works out perfectly fine. But you still want to keep that in mind. If you do use that in the wrong abilities, the wrong order of turns, then it's going to mess your team up for sure. Go ahead and use that. Turn the team on auto. Everything's perfectly fine now. We just use our A1. So this team is pretty easy if you have this team set up. It's pretty easy once you get to the Scarab boss, assuming you have Metal Shaper and your shields are all set up correctly and everything like that. Really just getting through the waves I've seen was a big issue, and hopefully those few buff ideas, so the block damage, unkillable, those type things on the wave 1, focusing down the Harvest Jacks over the Warchiefs. If you have decreased attack abilities, definitely apply those. If not, you really just want to make sure you prioritize the correct people when you're attacking. So this team, obviously the speeds are off a little bit somewhere. Not a huge deal. I got a video earlier on the channel using Metal Shaper and showing you guys how to use him, how he works in a team, and it was a perfectly fine clear. Allure doesn't always place decreased turn meter. That kind of messes it up as well. But overall, guys, that is how I think you could set up a solid team to clear through the Scarab King as far as getting through the waves. The waves I've seen is a big issue for a lot of people. If you're going the route of just nuking everybody down, bring a res champion, not a big deal. This is kind of like the bare bones type team. If you had a healer, perfect, stack some shield sets and you're good to go. So guys, thank you all very much for watching this video. I hope you can take something from it and apply it to your team and hopefully help you with beating the Scarab King. Thank you all again, and I'll catch you in the next video.